On today's episode of Body Bangin', we are talking with everybody's good friend, Dave Luehr. You know him, I'm sure. And we're going to talk about the 2 Ps. Guess what they are? Well, parts, if you didn't guess it. And the second is people. 2 super important topics to our industry right now. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Body Bangin', your podcast for all things body. Auto body, that is. And now, introducing Body Bangin's host, Mickey Woods of Mickey Woods Marketing. Mickey is a former auto collision center owner and is now a marketing and business development expert to shops across the globe.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Body Bangin'. On today's episode, we have David Luehr on. He is our special guest. And if you don't know David, then you are probably living under a rock because I feel like, Dave, you're everywhere. He's been in the collision industry for many, many moons. And if you are on social media at all, I see his videos he usually puts out every week, and they have such great takeaways. I really recommend that you guys find him and watch these videos. They're great. But on today's episode, we're going to talk about 2 issues, 2 big issues in the collision industry: parts and people, double P. And I asked Dave, I was like, what do you feel like is a hot topic right now? And he's like, parts and people. And I was like, yes, let's talk about it. So welcome.
Mickey, I finally made it on Body Banging. I'm finally here. Thank you so much. What a great service you're doing. I love your podcast, and I'm finally on it. So what can I say? Glad to be here. Yeah.
So glad to have you. Yeah, I recently, Dave and I talked, it was a few months ago, and I picked up his book, which is awesome. And I'm like, you gotta be a guest on the show. So today we're going to talk about some hard-hitting things because Dave, if you don't know him, works with shops. I mean, are you global at this point? Do you work with pretty much anybody and everybody?
Yeah, the majority of our clients are in North America, but we have them as far away as the UK, Australia, even Italy.
Wow, that's so cool. So at this point, are you doing mainly consulting then? Is that what you would like your role?
Actually, it started out consulting, but there's a difference between a coach and a consultant. A consultant is somebody that is the expert in the relationship, right? Mm-hmm. That's providing information to a client. What a coach does is respects that the client already has information, but they just don't always choose to use it. So we do kind of a blend of coaching and consulting, but we're also primarily an education company. We provide online training, live online training, live events. We have mastermind groups that people participate in, kind of like a virtual 20 group, but we call them mastermind groups.
Yeah, I did one of those. It was awesome.
Right.
Yeah. It was great.
Yeah. So we have all sorts of ways to help, independent collision repairs. That's who we focus on.
Yes. And as everybody knows that listens, that's where my heart is. And that's why Dave and I think really connected because we are both really pro independent shops. And how can we help everybody out there? So excited today to be talking about 2 places where shops are really getting hit. And then, we know a lot of it is perspective. And I talk a lot about being proactive versus reactive and just kind of sitting back and complaining. So the joy of the show is we're providing some solutions for you guys and some other ways to look at these big, heavy hitting topics. So I'll let you kind of launch into it. Let's start with parts because I feel like that's going to be a shorter segment and everybody's in the same boat right now.
Yes. And I like what you said, because there are a lot of people out there. Not everybody appreciates my messaging, even though I want you to know that it's always out of love, because I love this industry. I've been in it, I think 35 years or something crazy like that, but it's always out of love. And I spend, this business was started because I saw a lot of people in a lot of pain, a lot of victims, right? But I also see sometimes in the same marketplaces, shops that are highly successful at the same time under the same conditions.
Yes.
right? So my job, right, and our job of my entire team over here at Elite is to say, what are these guys doing so that I can teach them to these guys? And then we can take these guys that are already doing it well and make them do it even better.
Yeah.
Right. So on the subject of parts, we really have no control over the supply chain issues that we've got.
Right.
Right. So the victim over here is going to say, well, there's nothing I can do about it. It's all China's fault or whatever, whatever the reason is that they want to blame all of their problems on this situation.
Yeah.
Right. Now, the other shops, the outliers over here say, this situation sucks. There's nothing I can do about the supply chain issues, but there's things that I can do internally in my business to lessen the pain a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what are some of those things?
Yeah. Yeah. What are some of those things?
Yeah, right.
Tell us.
Another anomaly that, we through our discussions with our mastermind groups is everybody's telling me they're having an unprecedented rate of heavy hits coming into their shop environment.
Yeah.
So they're bottlenecking their entire system, trying to shove all these, what we call category 3 jobs through the repair system.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing is they're busier than they've ever been, but they're less profitable.
Mm.
The reason for that, and this is coming around to the parts issue here in a moment, right, is because they're not getting those category 1s and 2s, the small and medium-sized jobs through their system. It takes a mix of work to optimize the profitability of a shop. Because what is the painter doing while everybody else is working on heavy hits? Right?
Nothing.
Not much, right?
Yeah,
not much,
yeah.
Right. And I think you used to be a painter, so you know what this. No. Yeah. So anyway, what's causing this is people don't know how to schedule repairs properly. And my recommendation is you need to get those cat 1s and 2s in there and schedule your category 3s out as far as it takes. And sometimes to the point where this is really uncomfortable for shops, but some of them are doing it, and that's saying no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because guess who's saying no more than anybody right now? The MSO consolidators are.
Yeah. I've noticed that. It's really interesting.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So the independents are like, oh, the Caliber is so nice down the street. They're saying this work. And it's what the Calibers of the world understand is that they can't produce these category 3s fast enough, right? They're still going to struggle with parts shortages. They don't have the staff either to produce them, right? And it's going to ruin their performance guarantees with all their DRP partners.
Yeah, totally.
Right? So they're going to push these things out to you guys, my independent friends, as much as possible. And some of you that have been slow through the pandemic are like, oh, thank you. Right?
Yeah.
Now some of you are going, oh my God, what do I do with all this work?
Right.
Right. So back to the parts issue. We have control over the appraisals that we do on the category 1s and the category 2 jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned this from my shops over in the UK and a lot of our friends up in Canada and some of those members of our mastermind groups that are doing what they call an advanced repair plan.
Mm.
So what is an advanced repair plan? The vehicle comes in for an appointment, right? The car's drivable.
Okay.
For an appointment, and they spend as much time as it takes to get a mini blueprint, a proper repair plan, right? And if it's safe to do so, right, they're doing some minor disassembly, temporary disassembly to make sure that they capture 100% of the damage.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we call an advanced repair plan.
Okay.
They're getting really smart about it. Some of these shops are getting super smart about it. They are getting the OEM repair procedures printed out and ready to go before the car even comes in for the appraisal.
Yeah.
Right? They're taking into account the ADAS equipment. They're using things like Frank Terlep's ADAS CoPilot, for example.
Yeah.
Welcome for the plug, Frank. But this is technology that you can use to find out in advance if it's possible, how far you can disassemble this vehicle and do a proper repair plan, put the customer back in the vehicle. If it's safe, sometimes it's not,
right?
But if it's safe,
right?
This is what the Canadians are doing. This is what the UK does, because guess what? They've always had parts issues. You know how long it takes
to get that?
You know how long it takes to get a fender in Saskatchewan? Yeah, a long time.
I didn't even, that's so funny you say that, Dave. That never dawned on me before.
Right. So that's why we like to learn from our friends up north and our friends over the pond, because they've always had to deal with issues like this. What are they doing?
Yeah.
So it's not so for some of these, it's not affecting them as much as it is our American shops, right? That are used to just bringing in all this work, right? And then fully disassembling the car and letting it sit there until the parts are going to show up.
Right.
I talked to a client yesterday, had 80 cars on his property right now.
Okay.
And a good percentage of them, probably half, are waiting on some kind of a part. Right. Yikes. So now they've got investment in all these parts that they do have. Right. Yeah. They've got the rental cars. Somebody's still got to pay for that.
Yeah.
Right? They've got all these angry customers that are calling them every day, checking on their car.
Yeah.
Right. And this all adds to the administrative, the operational expense of the business. So it's expensive to carry that kind of whip load.
Yes.
So for that reason, take advantage of the small and medium ones. Do a good upfront appraisal. Whenever you get an opportunity, pre-order those parts and don't bring that damn car in until you get them all. And I mean all of them.
Right.
And now this has been also a challenge because the dealers are now having to deal with that. So we have to have a little bit of empathy with them. But you don't, as a shop, you don't benefit one iota until you get the last part to ship that car.
Right.
But the dealer, right, if they've got 99% of the parts shipped to you, they don't care.
Yeah. Isn't that the truth?
So I'm not saying, to be flippant towards our dealer friends, but they've got a different agenda than you do. And keep that in mind.
Yes.
And don't be afraid to ask for complete orders. It's smarter business anyway. Right. My friends over in the UK have been doing this for years anyway.
Right.
They want one parts order, one invoice with everything on it.
Wow. So how did that, I guess the concern would be putting myself back in my shop owner shoes of you order these parts, you get them, and then they end up not coming back. I mean, are you just having them sign all the paperwork and getting them? I mean, what does that look like? So I want to minimize anybody's outlay or any issues by doing such a thing, because that would be the worry, right?
I don't think there's one best practice for that. I have talked to a couple of shop owners that are taking deposits, right? Or trying to get paid for some or all of the parts up front, or they're just getting a good repair authorization signed.
Yeah.
I guess you can always send the parts back.
You could. Right.
That's not a really friendly thing to do with your vendors.
Yeah.
My friends like Rydell Collision up in Grand Forks, North Dakota, these guys produce like 25 to 30 cars a day through their shop.
Wow.
Right. They're a dealership owned shop, but guess what? They have parts issues too, because they're up in the middle of nowhere land.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So they've been doing this thing called VDA that was taught to them by a British friend of mine, John Parker. And so they've been doing this whole VDA thing for a long time on almost all of their repairs. If you ask them, they will tell you most of their customers always show up. It's weird.
Okay. All right. So we don't need to be too concerned about that then.
I think some of it has to do with the appraisal process and the relationship of trust that you're able to build with that customer.
Right.
For some of you, you may want to take a deposit.
Right. Depending on how big the order is. And I'm just thinking, because I work with all size of shops, as I'm sure you do. And some of the smaller guys just it becomes a cash flow problem.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to be sensitive to, okay, we're about to outlay, for, because parts aren't cheap, especially if it's on, if we're talking something more advanced, you're looking at a $20,000+ parts order.
Yes.
And you got 90% of the parts, but you still can't do anything. It's like, oh.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not, it doesn't do you a lot of good to have a parts room full of parts that you can't use. And it's very expensive.
Yes. But at the same time, if you think about it, conversely, whether you have the car or not, you're still going to be waiting on the parts. Right. But now you don't have to take up that spot on your lot. We're not talking cycle time. We're not taking into account all these other factors. So let them be out there driving, clear it up and be more efficient with the space that you have. So I love the concept of that. And I know there were some shops that were doing that pre-pandemic and having great success with it, where they wouldn't bring a car in. And that was just the way they did business. And it wasn't because of a parts issue. It was just it just made it more efficient.
They're probably feeling the pain a little bit less than the ones that weren't prepared, the ones that weren't doing those type of best practices that we teach our clients.
Right. Yeah. Well, I love that. Now, is there anything else that you've seen has helped with the parts issue beyond kind of doing the advanced planning?
We've had some conversations lately, and those of you that are on OEM certification programs, reach out to whoever is coordinating that for you and ask for help. Sometimes they can actually get you parts. This is the rumor on the street right now.
Interesting.
You leverage your OEM certifications to help you find parts.
Okay.
Right. Use things, other tips, use partsvoice.com. For example, have you ever heard of that?
I've not.
Partsvoice.com. You take the part number and you plug it in, and it does a nationwide search.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. And some people have had some success with that. We're also finding sometimes you will find a dealer across the country that has the part that you desperately need, and they won't sell it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I've heard of that.
We're seeing a little bit of that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
you're like, how much do I need to pay? Where it's like drug dealing.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I guess the big takeaways from this is control what you can, and you have some control over your category 1s and your category 2s. The tow-ins, it's a little bit more difficult, but some of you, I hate to say this, are going to have to be like the MSO consolidators and just say no.
Yeah.
Or at least, if nothing else, be more realistic on your ability when you're going to be able to start on it.
Right.
Because frankly, I think what you're doing is you've got category 1s and 2s scheduled, right, for 2 weeks out. And then a category 3 gets dropped on you today. And then you try to fit it into the schedule, thereby ruining the entire schedule.
Yeah. Totally.
If that makes sense, right?
Absolutely.
Be realistic with your customers when you think you're actually going to be able to get that thing in, and even do a repair plan on it.
Yeah. I love it. Very, very, very useful. I think that those that will be flexible enough to try to be different could be pleasantly surprised.
I know. I just, my shops and I have been doing these type of behaviors for a while, so it almost is our new normal, so to speak.
Yeah, right.
Because we always look to areas like the UK and places that have challenges that we don't, and try to learn from them. So when we are faced with challenges, we're a lot more resilient.
Yeah, I love that idea, because I'm all for don't reinvent the wheel. If somebody's got a process for something and it's working, let's look at that rather than try to recreate. I mean, come on. It took them, I'm sure, a long time to figure out what the workaround would be for something they deal with every day. So,
and I say this, it's not that the Brits are any smarter than us. They're pretty smart too.
Yeah.
But when you're faced with challenges as a matter of survival, You get innovative. You have to do things better or you just don't survive.
Right. And they've tested it. So if we were just creating something like this, we would have to, beta test it and try it and figure it out, which, as a shop owner, you still got to do because you're still going to have to make it fit for your shop and your people. Exactly. But the concept has clearly been tested enough times that if the bulk of those shops are doing that, clearly there may be something to it.
Right. I'm just saying. Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. I love it. Okay. So hopefully everybody listening has written down. I feel like I'm going to write down in the notes a few of these things. So if you missed it as Dave was talking about it, it'll be in the notes. Yeah. And let's move on to the people component.
Let's do that. Let me wrap up that last segment. Yeah. It just occurred to me that on our academy site, bodyshopsolutions.com/academy.
Okay.
There is actually a video in there on scheduling. It's a short video.
Oh, okay.
And I really want people to understand our philosophy on the mix of work and how to schedule it smarter. This may help us a little bit to understand the whole category 3 thing.
Okay. So that way they're not just trying to okay, what do I do with this? Okay. Awesome. So I will put that in the show notes. So if you're listening or watching right now, there is a hyperlink.
Or reach out to us and send us an email and we will send you a link to that.
Perfect.
That training video.
It's perfect.
Free. Yeah.
Free 99. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay.
If it's free, it's for me.
Yeah, there you go.
That's what my friend Bruce King says.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. So people shortage.
Yeah.
So the last, and this is not a new problem, ladies and gentlemen. This is a problem that's been brewing a hell of a long time.
Yeah.
And, in my company, our job is to help independent collision repairers grow and build their businesses. And guess what? When they're always shorthanded, we can't do our job. So for selfish reasons, we said, we got to do something about this.
Right. 100%.
The bigger the problem, the bigger the opportunity for entrepreneurs, right?
There you go.
So the first thing I did a couple of years ago was I went out and my friend Jeff Peavy, who became the chairman of the CIC committee.
Yeah.
And Jeff's a good friend of mine. So I said, dude, what are we going to do about this talent shortage thing? And I unknowingly volunteered myself to create a new committee called the Talent Pool Committee.
Oh, wow.
Right. So this committee is still going on. I'm no longer a direct part of it, but fortunately it's still going on. There are people that are trying to help solve this problem. But I learned some really, really valuable things during this experience.
Cool.
Would you like to know what they are?
Yeah, I was going to say, so are you going to share those with us today?
Yeah. So back to the victim thing, right, that we talked about. Yes. Most victims want to just blame society for all the shortages that they've got.
Totally.
Right. They're going to, in a way, it helps them be complacent with the problem.
Right.
Because they feel like they're powerless, so they can't do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because society has built this millennial generation that doesn't want to work or whatever the excuse is.
Right.
What I discovered is that's just simply not true. Shocker, right?
Yeah.
Millennials do want to work. They just don't want to work for us. And I'm saying that generally speaking.
Right.
Because we're spending a lot of energy and I want to continue to support, and I want everybody listening to this, I want you to support CREF.
Yes. 100,000,000%.
Yeah. We need all the help we can get to continue to get young people interested in our trade.
Yes.
Okay. We need to support CREF.
Collision Repair Education Foundation.
The other thing that, so for years when I was still working in shops in Middle Tennessee, I would go to the Nashville Auto Diesel College, as it was called back then, and I would go to all of the events that they would have for their students. What do they call them? Career fairs.
Yeah.
Right. And guess who was there?
CREF.
No.
Oh, not yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
I was there.
Okay.
And Service King was there.
Ah, yes.
And Gerber was there. And
Caliber was there. Yeah.
But yes, there was no other independents there ever other than me.
Wow. Interesting.
Guys, this is a missed opportunity. If I'm an independent repairer, I want to buddy up with the guys at the tech school.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So
totally.
That's one of the takeaways. Get involved in these schools. Get on their advisory boards. Right? Help them create the type of people that you're looking for. Okay. So that's only one half of the equation.
Yeah.
One half of the equation is organizations like CREF and the people that are working with schools. And there's some really good people doing this.
Yeah.
They're trying to get all these people interested in coming into our industry. But here's the problem. What we learned is that we're pushing people into an industry that they're not necessarily attracted to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if we want to be successful overall, we have to become more attractive.
Totally.
We've got to build businesses, ladies and gentlemen, that these people want to come to work for.
Yeah.
So I did this little experiment with some of my mastermind groups. I just asked them, I said, listen, how attractive do you think your business is to millennials? And they're like, yeah, pretty good, I think, yeah, I think they'd like to work here. And so based on some of the things that we learned during my talent pool committee and other research I've done, I came up with 5 primary things that a young person, millennial or Gen Z, is looking for when they decide they want to come into a career. And I said, okay, guys, in the mastermind group, rate yourself from 1 to 5 on each of this.
Cool.
Number 1, do you provide meaningful work? Right? Are people just showing up to twist wrenches, or is there a noble cause that they're working towards?
Yeah.
This is important to people.
Yeah.
Number 2, how good are you at acknowledging your people for a good job, right?
Yes.
Or acknowledging them for a bad job. How am I being measured? The young people today will work a lot harder for you if they know how they're doing. They need to be measured against a known standard. Most businesses, especially body shops, don't have a measurement. They don't have a standard.
Right.
The standard is somewhere in the owner's head. Okay.
True.
This one's upside down. This is one that my daughter taught me. Part of a team. My daughter came home. She's an architecture major. She's actually in grad school now down in Texas, but
cool.
She would come home for summer. She got an internship here in Nashville. And the first year she had this job and she was like, nah, they kind of put her in a corner and just fed her kind of random jobs just to keep her busy. Right.
Right.
So the next summer she came back and she took a different internship and she loved it because they paid her. Right. Which is cool.
Yeah.
And she worked in a team. She came back after the first day and she was glowing.
Oh.
Right. And I'm going, what's so great about this job? And she's like, I got to work on a team and we did meaningful work together.
Yeah.
They were working on something that had purpose and they were doing it together because millennials have always been brought up that way. Working together. Right. Yeah. Last thing is goal guidance. Right. I've heard a lot of shop owners say that I can't afford to pay these people. Yeah. Enough. Right. They're blaming the whole reason they can't attract people because, the insurance company's not paying me enough. I know that's a problem. I get it. Okay. I'm over it too. What? Okay. Right. what we've found is that people will come to work for you, and even at a slightly lower rate than what they're making in HVAC or as a diesel mechanic, but only if you can do this. You can show them how you're going to help them reach their goals, to make more money, to become a journeyman body man or whatever their dream is.
Right.
If you can show them a clear, concise career path and how we're going to do this together, they will come to work for you, because it's not always about the money, is it?
Right.
Money is table stakes. Everybody needs to be paid what they're worth.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you mentioned those 5. Abe Sells was one of the guests I had on a previous podcast, and he's a teacher at a very successful school through CREF.
Awesome.
And and he talked about how important several of those things he brought up in our conversation that his students have also said really mean something. They want to get verbal feedback, the acknowledgement. They want to know that. They want to know what is the plan. Pay is something, because you can't pay them. If you're going to be paying them minimum wage, but they can go work at like In-N-Out or something, pushing carts.
Right.
You know,
have you ever been to an In-N-Out burger? Every time, you live there, right? Every time I fly into LA, I go to In-N-Out. It's the first place I stop, and I go in there and I see millennials working their tails off. They're
happy,
smiling. They're happy.
Yes,
and they're blowing the stereotype up.
Right? Exactly. Yeah. And and if we think about it, just like you were talking about, what do they have at In-N-Out? They're on a team. Yep. There's a meaning. They all have a purpose, because they have mission statement meetings. Actually, I have some friends that worked up in corporate at In-N-Out. So it's all of those things that you are preaching, they are doing, and look at the results.
Yeah. And guess what? They're probably not having a talent shortage.
Right. Not like we are.
Not like we are.
Yeah.
And they're flipping burgers.
Right. Right. And how much money can you really make at In-N-Out? I mean, people aren't going there as like a career move typically.
Yeah.
Where people look at the body shops, collision industry, and they think more of a career. So if we're really trying to set people up to have a career, how important is it to have those milestones set with clear ways of how to hit those milestones? And we're missing it. We're missing it. And we as a whole,
we can do better, but that's the tough love in me. We need to do better, but I think it begins with just awareness that there's a better way. So even with my mastermind groups, which are some of the finest shops in North America, scored themselves very low on these things.
Interesting.
This was really the first time they'd even thought about it from that perspective.
Yeah.
And I also believe that it's not just the younger generations that want these things. I think most of us crave these things nowadays, don't we?
Totally. That's what I think is interesting as you're kind of going through each one. And even when Abe was talking, I thought, well, I want that too.
Right.
I'm not a millennial. I'm 43 years old, but I want to be acknowledged.
I want that. Yeah, I'd appreciate a thank you now and then.
Yeah, I like meaningful work. All those things are, I think, as a whole, if we implemented them, it really is beneficial to everybody. I think it's just, for some reason, millennials, it really is needed for them. Where I think we kind of went from a generation where people just went to work, put their nose down, and they worked, and they stayed at one job for their whole life, for their whole adult life. And that was it. And that's not the case. So we've kind of had to really drill down to what do people really want? And we find the millennials are not willing to just stay somewhere for the sake of staying.
That's well said, because, I read an article the other day, and it's not that prior generations didn't want the same things. It's just that the millennials are no longer willing to tolerate that.
Right.
Yeah.
Different culture.
We'll go join the whatever that new thing's called. I can't remember it, man. But it's all these 50 some odd million people have left their jobs to go. The gig economy is what it's called. You heard of that?
No.
The gig economy, because that allows young people to start their own little mini business, to do work for who they want to, doing what they want to do.
Interesting.
And so that's been a huge segment growing called the gig economy.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I think what you're talking about is great. So we've talked about how we can bring new people in, where we can find that pool of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I know CREF, because I've had Brandon on the show. He's a friend of mine, and they're even pushing out initiatives to make the industry more attractive to the kids in the schools, because they know that the perception for typical people and these students is like, body shop, we don't want to go get dirty, and you don't make much money, and it's just kind of looked down upon.
Yeah.
And CREF is really working on its side to push it out there so there's a different perception of our industry.
They're creating a better perception, which we need, but now we have to live that perception.
Totally. So I feel like what you're talking about is both sides. It's both sides of it. It has to be. Yeah.
And so we're not just talking about it. I've created a whole new brand starting next year with some very powerful leadership coaches. And we are going to take this to the streets, and we're going to teach shops how to do everything that we just talked about.
I love
how to build that attractive business. We're going to do workshops. We'll have speeches and webinars and different training programs, because I really feel like listen, I can't do my job over here until I get some employees over here.
Yeah.
It's a very selfish reasons.
Well, you and I both. I have clients. They're like, Mickey, I want to do more marketing. I want more cars in the shop, but I'm down 2 techs. I can't even handle what I got. So it's like, so same thing. I'm in the same boat. I can't market for you if you can't push. I can't bring you cars if you can't work on those cars.
Right. So it's like marketing. Why do I need that? Right. And folks, I want you to listen to this too. This is a plug for Mickey. You have to be marketing when you're busy.
Yes.
Right. Not just when you're slow.
Mm-hmm.
This is
amen.
Important. Yeah. Amen.
Preach it, brother.
Amen.
Yes. That is a major misconception. That's what I say. It's a lie from the devil, like Bobby Boucher's mama said.
Bobby Boucher.
Yeah. I love it, Dave. This is awesome. So incredible. So many great takeaways. So I'm going to have in the show notes, all the different ways to get a hold of Dave and his team. You can email. They've got a great website, so many resources. Find them on social media. There's no excuse, really. You're everywhere, and you've got such great resources, even for people that are like, I don't really know that I want to invest. Well, go watch some of the videos for free, right?
Right.
You don't have to spend anything.
Yeah, on our Academy site, there is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 hours of recorded content.
Wow.
Of just free webinars that we've done with all of the industry leaders.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, we're going to end the show for today, because we've given them so much good stuff. Like,
I know. We could go on
we
for
could
hours.
talk for days, Dave. Is there anything else you want to say before we hop off?
I'm just glad I finally got on this podcast. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah. I'm so happy to have you.
I hope those of you listening, I hope you got a takeaway or two that you can integrate into your business to make it better. Feel free to reach out to us anytime at info@elitebodyshopsolutions.com. We've got a great growing team here that's dedicated to your success. So I hope you'll take us up on that. Reach out if we can help you.
Yes, absolutely. Please do. Our heart, and I speak for Dave and myself, our heart is to help you independent shop owners, shop managers, the techs, the painters. So whatever we can do to help you. And Dave and his team are amazing. So please do reach out. Take advantage of the invite. Well, we are going to close this one up for today. Thanks everybody for listening to today's episode of Body Bangin'. Bye.
If you enjoyed today's show, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We have some incredible topics and guests coming your way you will not want to miss. If you are watching on YouTube and don't want to miss the latest and greatest, you'll want to hit the bell after subscribing, so you will get a pop-up each time a video podcast goes live. to our devoted fans. Would you mind paying it forward and sharing this little gem with someone else you think may benefit from it? Much love from all of us here at Body Bangin', all things auto body.